All right, so I hated my last video. So this is still week 7 NFL DFS. I threw that one together Monday and probably shouldn't have because this is a weird slate. So a lot of tough games and the over-unders are a little different too. A lot of low scoring projections. So I was like, well, maybe I'll make a quarterback slate video later. But no, I'm just gonna talk about the chalk and go over who I like and then give some stacks and say why. So for the chalk. So it's Thursday. Listened to a bunch of stuff, looked up a bunch of stuff based off of prices, matchups, what I've been hearing. Um, I believe the chalk's looking like for quarterbacks, Dak. That's pretty easy. Drew Brees on FanDuel because on DraftKings he's the highest and people tend to shy away from that. But on FanDuel he's actually a modest 8,300. Dak Prescott is not going to be the chalk on FanDuel. For that price, he's more expensive than Drew Brees, and you got Marcus Mariota and Russell Wilson below him. So Dak on FanDuel, you can get him at lower ownership, which is kind of why I'm making this video, like knowing where you can get guys and for what ownership. So if you're looking at DraftKings, Dak's going to be a lot more higher owned. Drew Brees will be lower owned. If you look at FanDuel, Dak's going to be lower owned. Drew Brees is going to be higher owned. So if you play the two different main sites, as I believe, like I do, I play both sites. And I feel that's important because I get to make different lineups for that. If I like a lot of guys, PPR wise, I get to go in and put them in as my flex and DraftKings. Knowing guys are going to get 100, like have a 100-yard rushing or 100 yards receiving, you get those extra 3 points. 300 yards passing, get those extra 3 points. Obviously I use them more on DraftKings. For FanDuel, you're looking more for just overall touchdown, higher chance to score a touchdown, stuff like that. So knowing that, so on DraftKings, Tyrod is probably going to be, I would say the chalkiest quarter. Well, not the chalkiest because you got Brett Hundley in there too, but on FanDuel, no, not at all, because Carson Palmer, he doesn't have a great matchup, but he has a decent matchup. And then you got like low ownership. No one's going to have Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers. I just wanted to throw that out there because those are those sneaky tournament plays. Yeah, that's about it for sneaky tournament plays. There's not a lot of good stuff. People I like, I'll get into that in a second. But yeah, for the rest of the chalk, obviously Brett Hundley. He's more expensive, I think, ratio-wise on FanDuel than he is DraftKings. I could be wrong. But he's priced with Teddy Bridgewater, Case Keenum, Eli Manning, Jay Cutler, Deshaun Kaiser, and CJ Beathard or whatever. Beathard, I don't know. But yeah, Brett Hundley, slightly more expensive than CJ Beathard, whatever his name is. And I think those two are going to be a little chalky on FanDuel because they are in a decent matchup. San Francisco's quarterback is in a good matchup, and he's at home and he's not favored. So usually I say every week you're looking for a quarterback that is at home who is not favored to win because that means he has the home environment and he has to throw the ball. So that favors quarterbacks. So I think Beathard, I'm just going to start calling him that. He had a weird last name, dude. I think Beathard is a good play for a cash lineup just because he is one of the cheapest starting quarterbacks. Mitchell Trubisky is right below him. No one's going to play Mitchell Trubisky, and it's not like he's doing bad. But he just has tough matchups, so I feel bad for the kid. I am definitely going to use him when he has a good matchup. Yeah, he's averaging 10 points, so obviously you're not going to use him. That's the cheapest starting quarterback. Yeah, that's the cheapest starting quarterback. So Beathard and then Brett Hundley right above that. They're both going to be chalk. Brett Hundley probably more because he's on the Green Bay offense. He has more weapons. San Fran's been hanging in on every single game, and their offense, it's I call it a field goal offense, but it's not horrible. They are scoring, and Dallas is in no way a threat defensively. So I'm just trying to look up San Fran, where they're at on scoring. Probably have to scroll down to the bottom. 25th in the league. So that's right behind Baltimore, of course, LA Chargers, Pittsburgh, Arizona. So teams that people target a lot. San Fran's sitting right behind them. So that's kind of scary. One thing about San Fran's quarterback, I guess I'm going to start calling him that, is that a lot of his yardage last week came in garbage time, like 200 something yards or something crazy, came in garbage time. So I don't know. But then again, he was thrust into a starting role, really no warming up, no preparation. So there's that. He's got a soft matchup at home. Dallas has to travel West Coast, but it is a 4 o'clock game. So yeah, I might take that back. He might not really be too chalky. But yeah, other than that, Dak, Drew Brees, Tyrod on DraftKings, Drew Brees on FanDuel, Brett Hundley on everything. Brett Hundley can run. The dude can run. So I consider him more of a cash because of his price, more of a cash, but because of his running ability, you can use him in GPP. But in order to take down big tournaments, you have to have a good stack. That's really all there is. Look at every top winning lineup. If you go back and look at them, I go into history for my lineups. Any tournaments that I play, I go in and see who won. I look at the top few lineups, and they all have stacks. It's usually the top 5 quarterbacks, because after the top 5 quarterbacks, they're all the same. Just a couple points off, which, yeah, that matters, but it doesn't matter. So, yeah, Brett Hundley, and the biggest thing is who do you stack him with? So I'll get into stacks with a second, but because he has that rushing ability, I can see him throwing for 230 yards and a touchdown, interception, but then rushing 40 yards rushing and a touchdown. Like, all of a sudden you're looking at 10 extra points on top of 12 or 13 that he just got. So he frees up your roster. So he's probably going to be the chalkiest quarterback of the week, which you could always fade. You could always fade that. Like, I'm not worried about that. But it's going to be interesting to see who people stack him with. Devontae Adams had a good game when he was there. I've been saying every week, Green Bay's wide receivers are not getting 100-yard games. So you got to know that. In DraftKings, you're not going to get that bonus compared to other guys who are similar priced, who have a better chance of getting a 100-yard game. They are very touchdown dependent. Over 30% of their points come from touchdowns. Mostly Jordy Nelson, like 40% of his. But yeah, other than that, like, Brett Hundley's good for both, I guess. But I put next to him, like, I don't really care for the Jordy Nelson stack with him, because I do not think that's going to return value. So a lot of people talk about value. For Brett Hundley, he's 6,500. So you're looking at, he needs to get 13 points. That's fine. And for 2x value. So that's fine. He should get 13 points because of his running ability. His floor is probably 13 points. His ceiling is probably 18. But if you add in that rushing value and you give him a higher floor, I wouldn't argue with you at all. It'd probably 23, 24 points. And now you're hitting big value. Now the thing is your stack. A lot of people don't do this. When they look at their stack, when you put the quarterback and the running back, quarterback and wide receivers, tight ends, whoever, I don't care, whoever you stack, same players on the same team, does that hit value? So you need to add up how much is Brett Hundley and how much is Jordy Nelson. So some sites change the price. So Jordy Nelson, he got a bump on FanDuel. I haven't really looked too much into FanDuel this week because the prices on DK I thought were a little bit more competitive. I could use to my advantage. Jordy's 74, so you're going to need to average. So like 1,400 combined salary, almost like 13.9. So your stack has to hit at least 26 points to return 2x value. And then you got to think, is Brett Hundley and Jordy Nelson combined going to get 26? And that's only 2x value. So that's what you kind of have to look at. A lot of people don't do that. Okay, well, I talk to people, all right, well, what's your stack? What's your value at your stack? I don't know. I just know my value. I'm trying to get 2x on everyone. Okay, well, that doesn't help. At least 2x. So I don't really care for Brett Hundley. I'm going to probably run him naked, and that sounds very gay. Sorry if you don't like that. But that just means that you're running him without a stack. That means you're not putting any sort of other Green Bay players on your team. You're running him just by himself. And I think that is going to be a solid move. A lot of people are going to do it because they don't really know who to throw to. I say this with new quarterbacks, the tight end usually they're the beneficiary of the new quarterback because they do their check downs. The tight end does a little block or runs out a quick under route. He's usually in the middle. You're good. I don't know if New Orleans is even good against the tight end. They got a couple good linebackers that usually helps against the tight end, but I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know how New Orleans is against the tight end. So that's something to look into. Martellus Bennett I think he's averaging like 8 points or something. So it's not really like a great move because he's usually higher priced for what he's going to get. Like he's 5,300 on FanDuel. I'd rather pay up for Evan Ingram $200 or pay down for Hunter Henry $100. He's averaging 5 points on FanDuel. That probably means he's averaging 8 or 9 on DraftKings. So, hey, go Yankees. So, yeah, those are my quarterbacks. For running backs, Fournette, Zeke, because no one knows if he's going to be in the NFL or not. Against San Fran, this is his best matchup he's had all year. They're not horrible against the running backs as they were last year, but they're still not great against them by any means. And this is the best matchup he's had. On the road usually tends to favor run games in this kind of situation, I think, mostly because I don't really know why. I had it on the top of my head. I should have wrote it down. I just like Zeke in this matchup. Oh, well, brain farted on that. LaShawn McCoy, I said in my last video, #1 running back, I think, this week. This is the best matchup he's ever had. They don't have a lot of weapons around Tyrod Taylor. I think he's heavily involved. I think he's back up to his low 30s, high 20s carries. And if he gets that, I mean, you're not guaranteed 100 rushing yards, but you're guaranteed 100 rushing yards. Jai against the Jets, we know he gashed them for over 300 yards combined in 2 games last year. That was last year. This year he didn't do that, but game flow didn't help him out. I think this time around at home helps him out a little bit. I like him. He's averaging over 25 attempts a game last 2 games, and then AP because he just went off and he's got a good matchup against the Rams. These are going to be slightly lower owned, but due to their price, somewhat of their matchup and recency bias, these guys are going to be in Ingram, McKinnon, and McCaffrey. So those guys are going to be the chalk, lower owned guys. McCaffrey, I never use that guy on FanDuel. There's no point. That half-point PPR, if you compare his average on DraftKings to FanDuel, like he's averaging 11 on FanDuel, 11.5, and I think he was averaging some 15 points on DraftKings. Like, that's big. McKinnon, he's got a good matchup. Even though Baltimore's a good defensive team, they're not good against the running backs. I like McKinnon here. I'm fine with that. $7,000, so kind of reflects his progression. And then you got Mark Ingram. He just went nuts. What's interesting is Carlos Hyde, who I like this week a lot. Christian McCaffrey, McKinnon, and Ingram are right there with Aaron Jones and Jordan Howard. All 5 of them are 6,700 to 7,100. And it'll be interesting to see because a lot of those guys have some good matchups. I don't like Jordan Howard's matchup, but I love his volume. And I talked about in my last video that I think he's a good play. I don't even realize kickoff happened, so I have South Park on over the game. Disappointing. 8 minutes into the game, and I got South Park on. Mark Ingram, a lot of people are going to use him because of football. A lot of people are going to use Mark Ingram because of last week, so this remote is the best freaking thing in the world. High school football? Got to be more descriptive than that. Thursday night football. Anyway, Mark Ingram's got a decent matchup, but he gets game flow. Drew Brees doesn't have to throw as much. Just recently, this offense this year is 6-3. What did I miss? Amari Cooper touchdown with a flag. Amari Cooper finally does something since game 1, and I missed it. No, it's getting called back anyway. Sorry, guys. Mark Ingram, yeah, good play. This week, Jarrett McKinnon, good play. I think Jordan Howard, super low ownership every week. I've been playing this guy a lot since I pretty well. I'm not going to say a lot. Yeah, I play him probably almost every week. But I don't have high exposure to him because it's offense. But because he had a monster game, 167 yards, and the other week could have had a huge game, but his touchdown got brought back. Like, he gets the volume. Carolina is amazing against running backs, but both two good defenses. I think game flow gives Jordan Howard the touches he needs. His yards per carry are good. I like it. I like it more on FanDuel than DraftKings. And I like Carlos Hyde. Good matchup. He's averaging 14 on FanDuel, which is phenomenal. The only running backs that are averaging more than Carlos Hyde on FanDuel are Devontae Freeman, Gurley, Ezekiel Elliott, Fournette, and Bell. And those guys are all 7,800 and 8,400 all the way up to almost 10,000. You're getting Carlos Hyde for 6,700 in a good matchup at home. They're not favored to win. Obviously, they're San Francisco. That wasn't a spoiler alert. They're not favored to win, but I don't think this is going to be a blowout. I don't think Dallas comes in there and wins by. I still think they win by a touchdown, but that still favors Carlos Hyde to get his touches and passes if needed. If they go down big at the beginning, used in the passing game. I like him in both slates. I think he's a great running back when he gets his touches. He got 2 touchdowns last week. He's still being used, and I think game flow helps him out this week. So, and I'm naming these guys because with the chalk being Ingram, McKinnon, and McCaffrey, it's important to pivot off of these guys. So Jordan Howard, you're going to get under 3% ownership. That's huge. If he gets his 20-plus carries, and I talk about getting, like, every week he seems like 80 yards and a touchdown, but he's been getting more than that, like over 100 yards. And if he gets that touchdown, like, he's having a monster game. And then you got Aaron Jones in there. Obviously, when you have a new quarterback, they are going to limit his pass attempts. I don't think New Orleans comes in here and just puts up 30 points. Like, I don't think their defense puts up 30 points. So I do think Aaron Jones is used a little bit more heavily. So he's another pivot play. If you want to use Doug Martin, you can. He's averaging more than Carlos Hyde. Look at that. And he's the same price pretty much. So, yeah, I just don't like Doug Martin if against Buffalo at Buffalo, but the volume should be there. He's getting 15 attempts, and that's after 2 weeks. He's been getting 15 and 15 attempts, and now it's week 3. They might be able, in a low-scoring game. He's also going to get game flow, so I like that. A guy that I do like is Derrick Henry. DeMarco Murray's hamstring's hurting him again. Like, how many weeks does this guy need to have a hamstring before they're just like, hey, take your time, sit down. We got Derrick Henry in the backfield. Like, it's okay. They're splitting carries, but I think this week that Derrick Henry gets more carries. And if he gets more carries, he's having a great week. Luckily, Derrick Henry's all the way down here at 5,600 at Cleveland. I love it. I'm good with it. So that's running backs. Wide receivers, I just put a question mark. I'm not hearing any chalk on receivers. Like Antonio Brown, tough matchup. He has struggled against Cincinnati. Julio Jones, he's averaging 10 points, but because his name is Julio Jones, he's still almost $9,000. AJ Green, I had a comment on one of my videos. He's probably going to watch this one too. We've been talking back and forth. He was asking about AJ Green going up against Joe Hayden. Joe Hayden's having an amazing season, but the size advantage is there. The price is not. The matchup is not there. The division rival, what looks to be a low-scoring game, the defense matchup, just the slower paced, all this game flow seems to go against AJ Green. But when you get someone like AJ Green in a projected low ownership matchup, you play him in GPPs all day. I'm not going to use him in cash just because due to his literally I just named it all. So I'm not going to use him in cash. I think Des Bryant's going to be chalky. he just hasn't done anything this season. Like, yeah, I get it. It's Des Bryant, but like he doesn't really do much with Dak, so I don't really care for him. They're more of a run first offense, not more up. They are a run first offense. They are going to run Ezekiel into the ground this week. They don't know if they should have him next week, but they have no idea. So why not keep giving him touches? I think LaShawn McCoy is my number one pick for running back this week, but I think Ezekiel Elliott, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. I guess you could say that's a bold call. That's not a bold call. So other than that, I like Brandon Cooks. Michael Thomas might be a little chalky. I like Chris Hogan. I like the Patriots against Atlanta. I think they're going to come out there and wipe the floor with them just because they are not happy about people still talking about Atlanta should have won. Just the Patriots are spiteful, man. Benny Fowler might be chalky due to his price and Emmanuel Sanders being out. Demaryius Thomas, due to the amount of targets he had when Sanders went out, might be chalky. I think Jarvis Landry is a good pick. I'm not seeing too much chalk this week on wide receivers. There's a lot of tough matchups and a lot of injuries. There's a lot of injuries in the NFL this year. Guess what? As players get faster and stronger, and you're colliding, and then you limit the preseason and practice and reps and all this stuff, you're going to have a lot more injuries. So too bad Roger Goodell won't watch this, right? Because I'm sure he doesn't know that. Hey, he comments on my video. He's like, hey, good stuff. Tight ends. All I wrote for chalk is Jimmy Graham, Evan Ingram, George Kittle. So Jimmy Graham, if you need to know what team he's on, you probably stumbled upon this video by accident. But Seattle Seahawks tight end, he's progressing upwards. You're looking for progression, low ownership progression, which he's probably not going to be low ownership just because the Giants are horrible against tight ends, and I think everyone knows that. You would think the Giants would know that. I don't know. But, yeah, I like him here. He's not too expensive on FanDuel. He's a little bit more expensive on DraftKings. Evan Ingram's slightly below him. I think more people use Evan Ingram because he's the only guy on Giants. But then you look at Seattle, and they're like, maybe not. Seattle's good against linebacker, or decent against tight ends. And then George Kittle. Everyone's talking about George Kittle. He is cheap. He runs I think the most routes of all tight ends in the league. And one of the dudes commented on my last video is like him and Bethyard went to Iowa, I believe, together. So I was like, hey, that's good. They already got chemistry, and it's a new quarterback. What do a quarterback do? They throw their tight end. So now I don't think that's a GPP play. You are not talking about that value. Now, when your tight end is 4,800 on FanDuel, probably 3,000 something on DraftKings. He's probably super low on DraftKings. I don't have both up, but obviously I'm just guessing. When he's that cheap of a tight end and your quarterback is that cheap of a tight end, that opens up your whole roster to use these stud running backs. I like to get a lot of the good running backs and then find value on one of my running backs that I like. So like Ingram, McKinnon, AP this week, stuff like that. Jordan Howard, guys like that have a solid floor, high ceiling, and then use a stud running back, and then I mix those guys around. But George Kittle and CJ Bethyard, I sound like an idiot saying his name, but I see them having a safe, low floor. By safe, I just mean they're both going to return 2x value. And like George Kittle, I think he does get 8 to 10 points. And but that stack isn't going to get you what you're looking for. So I don't think it's a GPP play unless you think my other reasoning when I make lineups is the players I put in that I'm sacrificing the other players for, like, are they going – that's a bold word to say for this, sacrificing. But the players I'm using over other players, is that going to be worth more? So what I mean by that is CJ Beathard and George Kittle. Plus, I get 2 stud running backs. Is that better than a decent quarterback and that stack and 2 decent running backs? So you got to look at it that way too. That's why I make a lot of lineups, I guess. Well, not a lot, but like I get that same question a lot. How many lineups do you make? Just depends on the week. If I like a lot of people, I got to make more lineups just to get exposure to everyone I like. This week, I don't like as many people. I narrowed my core down a lot more than past weeks. So I'm probably only going to make 25 to 30 lineups, and I submit the same core lineup multiple times, but I still use 25 to 30 lineups probably this week. And then I'll have my core lineup, and I'll do different variations of that, probably like 12 different variations of that. And then I'll do different stacks throughout everything. So is Brett Hundley and Devontae Adams and CJ Beathard and George Kittle, I think I pronounce his name a different way every time, are those stacks in the going to return value? And are those that little amount of money you're spending on those gaining more overall from the running back? So pretty much getting those big running backs in your lineup, is that worth more than the medium priced quarterback and a wide receiver? So that's why we play. I don't know. No one can say that, or else we'd all be millionaires, which means no one would be millionaires. But if you play the chalk quarterbacks, these are some stacks. Dak, Dez, people are going to do it. I don't really care for it. I'm going to have a little bit of exposure to it, but not much. I like Dak, Zeke. I'm fine with that. Drew Brees, Mark Ingram, that's going to be chalk, I think. I like playing the quarterback and a running back. If one of those guys are chalk and I think they can score 3 to 4 touchdowns, then I like playing them together because it's a lower owned stack and I have full access to the offense. Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, that's going to be a higher owned stack. Stacks are lower owned because not everyone does the same stack, obviously, and not everyone plays a stack. So it's a little different. It looks like Travis Kelce scored again. So yeah, there's that. Willie Snead, that's going to be a lower one because he's just getting back in. His snaps are limited. He didn't do anything last week. Eventually, he's gonna be Willie Snead, I think. Again, like I don't know how much of the preseason he was allowed to play due to a suspension. I don't think any. And now he's hurt, had a hamstring injury. Like you hurt yourself, and you've been off all year. I don't get that, but I'm not gonna play this. But I'm just saying stacks. So I'm not going to have a single bit of Brees Snead. And then Brees Kamara, because everyone used Kamara last week and he didn't get you 20 points. Everyone's like, oh, well, I'm probably not going to play him this week. So I'm fine with Brees Kamara. I'm going to have a tiny bit of exposure to that. Maybe 2 lineups, honestly. I like Brees Ingram's probably one of my more – I'm probably going to have 4 of those stacks. Tyrod, LaShawn McCoy is going to be my highest owned stack. Tyrod, Nick O'Leary. He's got to be Irish. His name's O'Leary. He's the tight end. If you didn't know that, that's fine. He's progressing upwards, and he's playing a lot of snaps. He's going to be the starting tight end this week. I like Nick O'Leary. He doesn't have anyone to throw to. Tyrod Taylor doesn't. I like Zay Jones. He got more targets last week. He was the beneficiary of Jordan Matthews being out. He's got the playmaking ability. I'm going to have Zay Jones and Tyrod Taylor in a few GPPs, no cash. I'll use Tyrod Shady in GPPs and cash, and I'll use Tyrod O'Leary in cash games. As for Brett Hundley, obviously Jordy Nelson and Devontae Adams. I don't really care for anyone else with them. You can play Aaron Jones due to the price. That opens up your roster, and that gives you Green Bay's offense at home against the Saints. I think this game's going to be 27 to 20 Saints. I don't really care for the Brett Hundley stack. Like I said, run them naked. And then CJ Beathard and Kittle, that's going to be very chalky. Brett Hundley is going to be chalky. I like Beathard and Hyde and Beathard and Garcon just because he's still got some playmaking ability and targets, but those targets came from a different quarterback. So I'm not going to have too much exposure to that, but he still is their wide receiver number 1, and Shanahan tries to get him involved. So, yeah, that's it for my chalk talk and who I like in different stacks. So I didn't really like my last video because I didn't really do a lot of research, and this was a tough slate. So just tried to help you guys out, see if you like anything. Let me know stacks you like or low owned, high owned, whatever. But hopefully that helped. Thanks, guys.